What's up, Disney nerds? Today, I'm back with another movie review. Today, I just got the chance to see Inside Out 2, and I wanted to talk about it because, of course, we're Disney nerd for life here. Love Pixar, rocking the best Pixar movie right here, Ratatouille. And before we get into today's video, I want to say, I know I haven't been posting a lot of movie reviews lately, and quite frankly, that's just because there hasn't been really amazing movies this year. Like, there really hasn't been any great, fantastic films. And I know that doesn't really give me the right to not post a movie review. And I'm sorry about that. And also, like, I've been going places a lot and doing a lot of things. I actually just graduated high school. So now I'm going to have a lot more time on my hands, but also college is coming around. And, so now we're going to be doing a lot of movie reviews for this summer, especially. Deadpool and Wolverine, plan on doing a review for that. And I know there's like a few movies that I missed, like Dune Part 2, Challengers, stuff like that. Today, we're going to review Inside Out 2. There might be a little bit of spoilers in this. It's the full weekend. Today's Monday. And I figured let's do a review on it. Why not? Let's get into it. So starting off, Inside Out was always one of my favorite Pixar movies out of like the 24 that there are. It was always in my top 3. To this day, I still think that it's number 3 on my list. Because I have like Ratatouille, Coco, and I believe Inside Out. And Inside Out 2 is, I'm going to say it's just as good as the first one. And I know a lot of people aren't saying, like, people are saying that it's like the same storyline, same, just like the same. And like, I quite frankly don't agree with that statement. This movie, the first Inside Out movie came out 9 years ago. I was roughly like 9 years old when that movie came out, 10. And I related to Inside Out so much when that movie came out, like the emotions behind it. And watching it over and over as a kid, like I grew up like going like, wow, this movie really does mean a lot to me. That when this movie came out, it has the same like feels as when I first watched the first Inside Out when I was a little kid. That to the point that I was kind of tearing up watching this movie. I was crying a little bit. And I know not a lot of people were saying that it's not as emotional as the first one. For me, it's a little bit more emotional than the first one. And I want to get into that. So plot, I'm giving the plot a 10 out of 10. I know everyone's saying that the plot's basically the first one. So going into spoilers here, of course we see anxiety takes over. Riley is hitting the age of 13. Going into puberty, and we see how that's a very messy stage in life. See all her emotions that were her main emotions: fear, disgust, sadness, joy, and anger are getting like kind of pushed back into her brain because anxiety is coming out a lot more. And it's so like, I love how Pixar is able to make a movie that can relate to children to show them like the true messiness of life. Because this movie does that so well. And lately Pixar's been losing its spark, but because like their plots have become so messy, like Elemental, Turning Red, like they're just so like messy and like Luca, like they just become like crumbled in on itself. Where this plot, it's very complex but also simple at the same time. There's like a scene, especially at the end, where kind of like Riley's having like a panic attack, and it's the most realistic panic attack I think in a kid's movie ever, or even like in a movie, one of the most relatable like panic attacks ever. You see anxiety is kind of a complex emotion, and everyone's trying to kind of get Riley back to her old self or her new self with these new emotions. Visually, I'm giving this movie a 10 out of 10. Again, Pixar's one of the best animated studios for me. Sometimes even over Disney, because like the way they animate their movies is absolutely amazing. The problem with like Wish, like Disney like had such a great animation style back in like the 40s through the 80s or 90s, and then they kind of went downhill with like Zootopia and Frozen. Like they're still beautiful animated movies, but they're not as like beautiful as what they were in their prime. Where Pixar, I feel like, just gets better and better, because you always had like an animation style that was that 3D animation from their first movie, but always gets more detailed and detailed, but also has that spark of like energy and immersiveness, and that's what this movie like holds. Like visuals are just perfect in Inside Out movie, and I feel like this is probably one of the most beautiful visually Pixar movies, except for like Elemental. I will say Elemental was the most beautiful Pixar movie, I think, but this is definitely second place for me. Now going into acting, I'm giving a 9 out of 10. We got Maya Hawke as Anxiety in this movie, and she is perfectly casted. Of course, like, we don't have Bill Hader as Fear anymore, but honestly, like, Anxiety does a great, fantastic job in this movie. Joy is fantastic. I apologize, my neighbors are extremely loud right now, and the walls are quite frankly thin. But yeah, Maya Hawke does a fantastic job as Anxiety. Joy is fantastic. And there's like a line in here that really hit me in this movie where it says, Joy just starts kind of breaking down crying, and she goes, I guess that's what happens when you get older. You just start to lose your joy. And you can just hear it in her voice that it really makes you want to cry. Like, it hits you so hard. And like the ending final scene, but that's more with the visuals and the soundtrack. It just hits you, man. And like, it's not perfect because again, like, when it's a voiceover, it's kind of hard, but you can just hear the emotion within Joy and within Anxiety that those actors have, that it just makes this movie so good. For soundtrack, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. There's not really such an amazing soundtrack here, but again, it's that Inside Out melody, which is one of my favorite scores of all time, and it hits in one moment, which is in the finale scene, the ending, which we're going to talk to once I get to the ending. But just when they play that score within the ending of the movie, that's when I started crying. I heard that melody, what they were playing on the screen. It hits you. And that Inside Out score is fantastic. But that's quite frankly that there all is. But it's so good that it makes it an 8 out of 10. I wish that there was a little bit more new melodies. There kind of is sometimes, but there's nothing like too amazing, such as like Ratatouille, which has one of the best soundtracks ever. Enjoyment for this movie, I'm giving it 10 out of 10. There is a lot of good jokes within this movie, just like the first Inside Out. I was laughing a few times. There was a few times that got me chuckling. One joke in here where Riley has two best friends now, and they were kind of like having some drama. Like, Riley knew that this one girl was keeping a secret, and Riley knew it, and then the girl in the middle, her emotions, like, accidentally spilled tea on the console. She goes like, oh my god, you spilled the tea, and she gives the secret away. Usually those jokes that use like today's language and stuff like that never really hit me. I always think they're cringy, but the way that this movie did that was actually really funny for me. I thought that was fantastic. It was really funny. There's so many elements into this movie that I cried, laughed, smiled, was on the edge of my seat. It was really good. Now, of course, to the ending, which I think is the best part of the movie. I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. The ending, it made me sob. Like, so basically, the emotions come back into Riley's, like, brain area, like the console area, and they're going there, and that's when Anxiety is taking over. She's having a panic attack. Riley's having like a panic attack. They take off Anxiety's, like, new brain thing, like her self-worth or whatever, that says I'm not good enough, and there's creating like a new one, and it's like saying like all these things, like saying like I'm not good enough, I'm a kind person, like I'm stressed, and like all the emotions kind of go around and hug Riley's subconscious, and that already made my heart go like kind of like, oh my gosh, this is really emotional. And it just shows like one good hug can make a person's day. She's forgiving her friends, and her are like they were having like a fight the whole movie. They were forgiving each other. And then like the sun just comes down, shines on Riley's face, and we just see Joy standing there. Now, Joy has not been in this movie in Riley's emotions because she said as you get older, you just feel joy less. And it's kind of true to a certain extent because more emotions come out. Like, joy was a primary emotion when you were younger, but you just find joy in the little things kind of when you're getting older. And I realized that coming into like being like almost an adult soon. being like 18 and a half now, that I do find joy in very little things, like just breathing in air sometimes while going on a walk. And Riley's kind of experiencing that, where the sun's like on her face. She's like just had ended an argument with her friends. They all forgave each other. Anxiety attacks gone, and joy's kind of being called to her. Like there's like pixels coming, and then they play the score to Inside Out, and everything's kind of like in a slowed motion. She's like, it's like bright. She's playing hockey, and then like we see like Joy kind of just like smiling and start to tear up. Guys, that broke me eternally. Like I started sobbing in my theater. My mom was next to me going like, "Are you seriously crying right now?" I couldn't contain it. And I haven't cried to a Pixar movie except for Toy Story 3. The ending of Toy Story 3 made me sob, and Up, the beginning of Up. I didn't cry really in Inside Out 1. I haven't really cried to like any other Pixar movie except for Up, Toy Story 3, and Inside Out 2. I think this is one of the most heart-wrenching Pixar movies I've seen in a long time. And my previous Pixar review, I said Pixar's lost its spark, Pixar's gone, they're done. I think that they just literally said, all right, you know what, we're releasing like everything we got on you, and I was proven entirely wrong. Pixar's still here, because that spark that was in that final scene got me, and I started crying. So overall, I'm giving this movie a 95 out of 100. I know I might be saying that this is a little bit too high, but I think this movie really relates to me a lot now. It could go down within a few rewatches, maybe as I get older, but for right now, I'm giving this movie a 95 out of 100. I think it's great. I don't think it's as amazing as the first Inside Out movie, but it's still a 10 out of 10 film for me, and I rarely give movies a 10 out of 10 score. But for now, this is my favorite movie of the year, and there hasn't been too many movies of the year that are amazing. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is up there at number 3. I think Challengers is 2, and then I have Inside Out as my number 1. I could see that being changed when Deadpool and Wolverine comes out. I feel like that's going to be my number 1 of the year for sure. But as of right now, I've got Inside Out 2 taking the cake. It was breathtaking. It was so emotional. It was everything that I needed to watch. Like, I needed to see that movie. And I feel like if you're struggling trying to find yourself, you need to watch this movie. Or you need like a good cry or something, or like you have anxiety in your life. I don't really necessarily have anxiety in my life, but there's some times where like I need to like just find joy in the little things, and this movie reminds you of that. And I think you should go watch that if you need that. So that's everything I got for today's review. Took a little bit of a deep dive here today with a Pixar movie, but that's what Pixar does to you. So thank you so much for watching today's video. Make sure you like it if you like this video. If you really like it, make sure you subscribe. And if you want to see future reviews like this, make sure you click that subscribe button down below. And let me know what your favorite Pixar movie is in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. This is out. Peace.